The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of Kepler Station as Commander Thale watched his fleet die. Through the massive viewing window, he could see the burning remains of 3 coalition ships drifting in the void. Their twisted metal hulls glowed orange against the black of space, and small explosions still flickered where fuel lines ruptured. "Sir, the Defender just lost main power," reported Lieutenant Crix, her blue crystalline skin reflecting the emergency lights. "They're requesting immediate evacuation." Thale closed his 4 eyes and felt his heart sink. The Defender was their strongest ship, and now it was just another piece of floating scrap. The Zephyrian Empire had brought 60 warships to destroy Kepler Station, and the Coalition only had 12 vessels to defend it. The math was simple and terrible. "Tell them to get their people out," Thale said. "Any ship that can still move should fall back to defensive line Beta." The station housed over 200,000 souls from dozens of different worlds. Traders from the ice planet Veltar mixed with diplomats from the gas clouds of Nethys. Refugee families from the Outer Rim had come here seeking safety, and now death was coming for them all. Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire had made his demands clear 3 hours ago. Hand over the war criminals hiding on the station or watch everyone burn. The problem was that Thale did not know who these war criminals were. The Empire claimed they were terrorists who had bombed a Zephyrian colony ship, but no one on the station matched their descriptions. "Incoming. Transmission from the Zephyrian flagship," announced Communications Officer Yelt. His insect-like features clicked nervously as he spoke. "Put it through," Thale ordered. Admiral Vextar appeared on the main screen. His purple scales gleamed under the bridge lights of his massive battleship. His yellow eyes held no mercy, only cold calculation. "Commander Thale," Vextar began, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "You have 30 minutes to surrender the criminals. After that, my fleet will destroy your station and everyone on it." "I have told you before," Thale replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We have searched our records. No one here matches your descriptions." Vextar's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "Then you will all pay for harboring them. Your pathetic defense fleet cannot protect you. Look around, Commander. How many ships do you have left?" 6, 7? Thale looked at his tactical display. 8 ships remained operational, though 3 of them were badly damaged. The Zephyrian fleet had barely taken any losses. Their shields were stronger, their weapons more powerful, and they had overwhelming numbers. "My ships may be outnumbered," Thale said, "but we will not abandon innocent people." "How noble," Vextar replied with a cold laugh. "And how pointless. 30 minutes, Commander. Then we will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Empire." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Thale looked around at his mixed crew. Lieutenant Crix was from the peaceful Veclari people, who solved problems with mathematics and logic. Communications Officer Yelt came from the Chirix hives, where individual glory meant nothing compared to the safety of the group. Tactical Officer Morn was a gentle giant from the farming world of Hester, where they grew food for half the galaxy. None of their people were warriors by nature. They had joined the Coalition to keep peace, not to fight impossible battles against overwhelming odds. "Sir," Tactical Officer Morn said in his deep, rumbling voice, "long-range sensors are picking up something strange." "Strange how?" Thale asked. "There's a ship approaching from the outer system. It's moving very fast, faster than anything in our databases, and it's broadcasting an old emergency code." Thale frowned. "Emergency codes changed every few years for security reasons." "How old?" Morn checked his readings again. "Over 150 years, sir. The code dates back to before the Treaty of Exile." A chill ran down Thale's spine. The Treaty of Exile was something most people preferred not to think about. It was the agreement that had banished humanity from galactic civilization after the border wars. The humans had been too aggressive, too violent, too dangerous to live alongside peaceful species. "Are you sure about those readings?" Thale asked. "Yes, sir. The ship is definitely using pre-exile human codes. But that's impossible. The humans are gone." Lieutenant Crix looked up from her station. "Sir, if the historical records are correct, humans were exiled because they were too militaristic. They fought wars differently than other species." "How so?" asked Officer Yelt. "They didn't fight for territory or resources," Crix explained. "They fought to completely destroy their enemies. Other species would surrender when losses became too high, But humans would keep fighting until one side was extinct. The bridge fell silent as everyone considered this. Stories about humans were mostly myths now, tales told to frighten children. But the older species remembered. They remembered ships that appeared from nowhere, weapons that ignored shields, and warriors who never retreated. "How long until the unknown ship arrives?" Thale asked. 15 minutes, sir," Morn replied. Thale made a decision that would change everything. Open a general channel to all coalition ships. Tell them to hold their positions and prepare for— I don't know what to prepare for. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Civilians were running through the corridors, trying to reach the emergency shelters deep inside the station's core. Families clutched their children while traders abandoned their valuable cargo. The air recycling systems were working overtime to handle the panic and fear of so many different species. In the shopping district, a Nethian gas-form family was trying to compress themselves into an emergency container. Nearby, a group of Chirix workers clicked their mandibles in prayers to their hive queens. The crystalline Veclari had formed geometric patterns on the floor, using mathematics to calm their minds in the face of death. "Sir," Officer Yelt announced, "the approaching ship is trying to communicate. It's requesting tactical data and permission to engage the Zephyrian fleet." Thale stared at the tactical display. One unknown ship against 60 Zephyrian warships. It sounded like suicide, but what other choice did they have? "Put them through," he ordered. The main screen flickered and a human face appeared. Thale had never seen a human before, but he recognized the species from old historical files. The woman had short brown hair and intense blue eyes that seemed to look right through him. Her uniform was dark blue with silver markings he did not recognize. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Indomitable," she said in a clear, confident voice. "Commander Thale, I am requesting permission to engage the hostile fleet." "Captain Chen," Thale began, not sure how to continue. "You're outnumbered 60 to 1. My fleet has been taking heavy casualties and we're much better equipped than a single ship." Chen's expression did not change. "Commander, my people have been watching this system for the past 6 hours. We monitored the Zephyrian demands and their threat against civilians. That changes the nature of this engagement." "I don't understand," Thale said. "You will," Chen replied. "Transmit your tactical data and pull your ships back to minimum safe distance." "We'll handle this." Thale looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him with expressions ranging from hope to terror. They had nothing left to lose. "Transmitting tactical data now," he said. "Good luck, Captain Chen." Chen's smile was cold and sharp. "Luck has nothing to do with it, Commander. We're humans." The transmission ended, leaving Thale and his crew to watch as a single human warship approached the massive Zephyrian fleet. In the distance, explosions continued to bloom as the last coalition ships fought their hopeless battle. Time was running out for everyone on Kepler Station. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Victory, watching his fleet systematically destroy the last coalition defenders. The pathetic aliens had fought bravely. He would give them that. But bravery meant nothing against superior firepower and numbers. "Admiral," called his tactical officer, "long-range sensors have detected an approaching vessel. It will be here in 10 minutes. Specification?" Vextar asked, not really caring. "One more coalition ship would not change anything." "Unknown class, sir. The design doesn't match any current registry. It appears to be very old." Vextar turned his attention to the tactical display. The approaching ship looked strange, all angles and weapon ports. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, and covered with markings he did not recognize. Most curious of all, it was alone. "Probably some merchant vessel trying to play hero," Vextar said with amusement. "Are the civilians still refusing to surrender the criminals?" "Yes, sir. Commander Thale insists they have no one matching our descriptions. Then we will make an example of them all. Order the fleet to begin final bombardment in 20 minutes. Let this newcomer watch their friends die before we destroy them too." On Kepler Station, Commander Thale was having the same conversation with his remaining officers. The human ship had appeared on their screens, and everyone was staring at it with mixture of fear and fascination. "I've never seen anything like it," reported Tactical Officer Morn. "The hull configuration is completely foreign. Those weapon ports, there are hundreds of them." Lieutenant Crix was running calculations on her console. According to historical records, human warships were designed very differently from other species. They prioritized firepower over comfort or efficiency. "What do you mean?" asked Communications Officer Yelt. Other species build ships for multiple purposes, Crix explained. Exploration, trade, diplomacy, defense. Humans built ships for only one purpose: destroying other ships. The human vessel, Indomitable, was indeed unlike anything in the current galaxy. Where modern ships had smooth curves and elegant lines, the human ship was brutal and angular. Every surface seemed designed to mount weapons or deflect enemy fire. There were no observation decks, no diplomatic quarters, no comfortable living spaces. It was a machine built for war. Admiral Vextar opened a communication channel to the approaching ship. Unknown vessel, you are entering a military engagement zone. Identify yourself and state your business. Captain Chen's face appeared on his screen, and Vextar felt a chill run down his scales. He had seen humans in historical files, but this was his first time looking at one in real time. Her blue eyes held an intelligence that seemed to calculate his weaknesses while she spoke. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Indomitable. You have threatened non-combatants, Admiral Vextar. That makes this our business, humans, Vextar said, unable to hide his surprise. Impossible. Your species was exiled over a century ago. Most believe you are extinct. Reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated, Chen replied calmly. You have 5 minutes to withdraw your fleet from this system. Vextar laughed out loud. 1 ship against 60? You humans were always arrogant, but this is beyond reason. I will give you 1 chance to surrender before I add your ship to the debris field. Admiral, Chen said, and her voice carried a coldness that made the Zephyrian's skin crawl. You misunderstand the situation. I am not asking you to fight 1 ship against 60. I am giving you the chance to leave before you face what human military doctrine calls total warfare. The communication ended, leaving Vextar staring at a blank screen. He turned to his tactical officer. Send Cruiser Squadron 3 to deal with this relic. 5 heavy cruisers should be more than enough to handle 1 obsolete human ship. Yes, sir, the officer replied, though he sounded uncertain. The 5 Zephyrian cruisers broke formation and moved toward the Indomitable. Each cruiser was 3 times the size of the human ship and carried enough firepower to level a small city. Their commanders were confident as they approached, weapons charging and shields at maximum power. Captain Chen watched them come with calm eyes. All stations prepare for engagement. Tactical, deploy quantum torpedoes and charge the kinetic rails. Engineering, bring the phase generators online. Captain, asked her first officer, should we attempt to disable their ships first? Negative, Chen replied. They threaten civilians. Standard rules of engagement no longer apply. Total elimination authorized. The first Zephyrian cruiser opened fire at maximum range, sending plasma bolts streaking toward the human ship. The Indomitable did not try to dodge. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma bolts passed right through the ship as if it were not there. What was that? Demanded the Zephyrian commander. How did they phase our weapons? Before anyone could answer, the Indomitable fired back. Weapons that the galaxy had never seen before lanced out from the human ship. Quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing them to bypass shields entirely. Kinetic railguns that fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Energy beams that disrupted matter at the molecular level. The first Zephyrian cruiser simply ceased to exist. One moment it was a mighty warship, the next it was expanding cloud of atoms. Impossible, whispered Admiral Vextar as he watched his ships die. The second cruiser tried to retreat, but the Indomitable was faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. The human ship caught up and fired a single kinetic round that punched through 3 ships in a row, destroying all of them instantly. The 5th cruiser managed to send a distress signal before it too was obliterated. The entire engagement lasted less than 4 minutes. On Kepler Station, everyone watched in stunned silence as 5 of the most powerful warships in the Zephyrian fleet were destroyed without the human ship taking any visible damage. By the crystals of Veltar, whispered Lieutenant Crix. The humans haven't lost their edge. They've improved it. Communications Officer Yelt was monitoring Zephyrian fleet communications. Sir, they're in complete panic. Admiral Vextar is demanding reinforcements from the nearest fleet base. How far away are those reinforcements? Commander Thale asked. 6 hours at best, sir. Tactical Officer Morn looked up from his console. Sir, the human ship is moving toward the main Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Vextar is pulling his ships into defensive formation. On the Indomitable, Captain Chen was studying the enemy formation with professional interest. First Officer analyzed their defensive pattern. Classic Zephyrian battle sphere, Captain. All ships positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire. It's actually quite effective against conventional attacks. Good thing we're not conventional, Chen replied. Tactical, prepare the ship for separation protocol. Separation protocol, Captain? Yes. It's time to show them what human engineering can really do. Admiral Vextar watched the human ship approach his defensive formation. He had 55 ships left, all positioned to concentrate their fire on any single target. Even with their advanced weapons, one human ship could not possibly survive the combined firepower of an entire fleet. All ships, he commanded, target the human vessel, fire on my command. But as he watched, something happened that challenged everything he thought he knew about spacecraft design. The Indomitable began to change shape. Parts of the hull separated and reconfigured, transforming from one large ship into multiple smaller vessels, each bristling with weapons. What in the name of the Empire? Vextar began. Captain Chen's voice came over the general communication channel, broadcasting to every ship in the system. Admiral Vextar, this is your final warning. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Never, Vextar snarled. All ships fire! The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. The space around the human ships lit up with plasma bolts, particle beams, and missile trails. It was the most concentrated firepower ever assembled in this part of the galaxy. When the light faded, the human ships were still there, completely undamaged. Now, Captain Chen said quietly, let us show you how humans wage war. The separated sections of the Indomitable began their attack, and Admiral Vextar realized with growing horror that he had not brought enough ships. The human ships moved through the Zephyrian fleet like predators among prey. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his perfectly planned defensive formation collapsed within minutes. The separated sections of the Indomitable attacked from multiple directions, using tactics no civilized species would ever consider. Sir, they're targeting our supply ships, reported his tactical officer. The humans are destroying non-combat vessels. That's against every rule of warfare, Vextar snarled. Target their command section and fire everything we have. But the human ships were too fast, too maneuverable. They darted between the massive Zephyrian battleships like insects, always staying just out of reach while their weapons carved through armor and shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. Captain Chen's voice echoed across all communication channels, her words carrying to every ship in both fleets. Admiral Vextar, you made a critical error in your understanding of human military doctrine. You think this is a battle for territory or resources. You're wrong. Then what is it? Vextar demanded, even as another of his ships exploded behind him. This is extermination, Chen replied calmly. You threatened non-combatants. In human military law, that removes all restrictions on our response. We will not stop until your ability to threaten innocent lives has been completely eliminated. The word sent a chill through every alien listening. Other species fought wars with rules, with limits, with the understanding that someday they might need to make peace. Humans, it seemed, fought with only one goal: absolute victory. On Kepler Station, Commander Thale watched the battle with growing amazement and horror. The human ships were using weapons and tactics that violated every convention of civilized warfare. They targeted escape pods carrying wounded Zephyrian officers. They destroyed ships that were trying to surrender. They showed no mercy to anyone wearing a Zephyrian uniform. Sir, Lieutenant Crick said quietly, I understand now why the other species voted to exile humanity. What do you mean? Thale asked. Look at how they fight, she explained, her crystalline features reflecting the light of exploding ships. Other species stop when the enemy surrenders or retreats. Humans don't stop until the enemy can never fight again. Communications Officer Yelt was monitoring the battle communications. The Zephyrian fleet is breaking apart. Ships are abandoning formation and trying to escape individually. And the humans? Thale asked. They're pursuing every single one. This was the most terrifying aspect of human warfare, pursuit. When other species won a battle, they were content to hold the field. When humans won, they hunted down every enemy ship to prevent them from regrouping or seeking revenge later. One of the separated sections of the Indomitable caught up with a fleeing Zephyrian destroyer. Instead of simply destroying the ship from a distance, The human vessel fired what appeared to be some kind of boarding torpedo. The device punched through the destroyer's hull and anchored itself in place. "What are they doing?" Admiral Vextar demanded as he watched the tactical display. His answer came when armed figures in powered armor began appearing throughout the Zephyrian ship. Humans had not only survived their exile, they had perfected the art of boarding actions. Their marines fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive savagery that terrified even the warrior-caste Zephyrians. The human marines used personal energy, shields that deflected Zephyrian weapons while their own guns adapted to enemy armor in real time. But most disturbing of all, they seemed to enjoy the combat in a way that other species found deeply unsettling. Where aliens fought for duty or survival, humans fought with a joy that bordered on madness. "Bridge to all ships," Admiral Vextar called desperately. "This is a general retreat. All vessels break off and head for the jump point." But the humans had anticipated this. They had positioned their ships to cut off all escape routes. Every Zephyrian vessel that tried to reach the edge of the system found human ships waiting for them. Captain Chen appeared on the general communication channel again. "Admiral, your fleet is surrounded. You have two choices: unconditional surrender or complete destruction." "And if we surrender?" Vextar asked, though he already suspected the answer. "All military personnel will be taken prisoner. Your ships will be destroyed to prevent future aggression. You will be tried for threatening civilians under human military law." "What about my crew?" "Non-combatants will be returned to Zephyrian space with a message for your government. They will understand that humanity has returned to the galaxy, and that we will protect innocent life wherever we find it threatened." Admiral Vexitar looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him with fear in their eyes. Half his fleet was already destroyed and the other half was trapped. The humans had not lost a single ship. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "the humans are jamming our long-range communications. We cannot call for help." Another human innovation: communication warfare. They did not just defeat their enemies in battle. They made sure those enemies could not call for reinforcements or warn their allies about human capabilities. On the main screen, one of the human ship sections was pursuing 3 Zephyrian cruisers that had tried to escape toward the outer planets. The human ship moved with impossible speed, catching up to each cruiser and destroying it with methodical precision. There was no emotion in the attacks, no anger or hatred. Just cold, professional elimination of threats. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "we've lost contact with Squadron 7. The humans appear to have cornered them near the gas giant." Vextar closed his eyes. Squadron 7 included his nephew, a young officer who had just been promoted to ship command. The humans would show him no mercy simply because he wore a Zephyrian uniform. "Open a channel to the human commander," Vextar ordered. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen. Her blue eyes showed no satisfaction in victory, only the cold calculation of a professional soldier. "Admiral," she said before he could speak, "you have 30 seconds to signal your fleet to surrender. After that, we will resume our attack." "Captain Chen," Vextar began, "my government will never accept this humiliation. They will send more fleets, larger fleets. You cannot fight the entire Zephyrian Empire with one ship." Chen's expression did not change. "Admiral, you still do not understand. The Indomitable is not alone. We are part of a fleet of 300 similar vessels, each one more advanced than anything your empire possesses." The words hit Vextar like a physical blow. 300 ships like this one could conquer half the galaxy. "That is impossible," he whispered. "Humanity spent our exile preparing for one thing," Chen explained, "ensuring that when we returned, no one would ever again threaten the innocent under our protection. We have been watching your empire, Admiral. We know about your slave worlds, your forced labor camps, your executions of civilians who resist your rule." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that the Zephyrian Empire's reign of terror is ending. Today." Admiral Vextar looked at his tactical display one more time. 12 ships left out of 60, hundreds of his people dead or captured. His nephew was probably among them. "All ships," he broadcast to his remaining fleet. "This is Admiral Vextar. Stand down and prepare to surrender." "Wise choice," Captain Chen said. "Your ships will be boarded and your crews taken into custody. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction." As Zephyrian ships powered down their weapons and lowered their shields, Vextar realized that more than a fleet had been defeated today. An entire way of thinking about warfare had been proven obsolete. The humans had returned, and they had brought hell with them. Admiral Vextar's surrender lasted exactly 7 minutes. As human boarding parties prepared to take control of the Zephyrian ships, alarms suddenly blared throughout Kepler Station. The Admiral had activated a hidden protocol that sent armed troops directly into the station's civilian sectors. All stations. This is Admiral Vextar. His voice echoed through the station's communication system. Human Captain, you have defeated my fleet, but my soldiers are now among the civilians. Order your ships to withdraw or watch 200,000 innocents die. Captain Chen's response was immediate and cold. Admiral, you have just made the worst mistake of your military career. On the station, panic erupted as Zephyrian soldiers stormed through shopping districts, residential areas, and refugee shelters. They wore full combat armor and carried weapons designed to kill, not capture. Families screamed as they ran for cover while the soldiers established positions throughout the civilian areas. Commander Thale watched in horror from the station's command center. How did they get troops aboard without us detecting them? Lieutenant Crix checked her sensors frantically. Sir, it appears they used some kind of stealth transport pods during the initial siege. The troops have been hiding in the lower maintenance levels for hours. The Zephyrian soldiers were methodical in their occupation. They took control of critical systems, blocked escape routes, and began rounding up civilians as human shields. In the main shopping plaza, a group of Chirix children huddled behind their parents while soldiers pointed weapons at them. The crystalline Veclari tried to use logic to reason with their captors, but the Zephyrians were beyond reasoning. Human Captain, Admiral Vextar announced, you have 1 hour to withdraw your ships from this system. If you do not comply, we will begin executing civilians. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the tactical situation. Her officers waited for orders, but they could all see the impossible choice before them. Save the fleet but lose the station, or try to save the station and let the remaining Zephyrian ships escape. Captain, her first officer said quietly, we could board the station, but civilian casualties would be enormous. The Zephyrians are using them as shields. And if we let the fleet escape, added the tactical officer, they'll regroup and attack other innocent populations. Chen closed her eyes for a moment, thinking. When she opened them again, her expression was harder than steel. Prepare the ship for Emergency Separation Protocol 7. 7? The first officer asked with surprise. Captain, that's never been tested in combat conditions. Today is a day for firsts, Chen replied. Execute the protocol. What happened next shocked every observer in the system. The Indomitable did not just separate into multiple combat sections as it had before. This time it underwent complete modular disassembly. Parts of the ship transformed into atmospheric fighters, sections became boarding craft, and the main hull reconfigured itself into a mobile command center. I don't believe it, whispered communications officer yelled aboard Kepler Station. The entire ship just turned into a small fleet. But the most impressive transformation was yet to come. One section of the human ship, larger than the others, approached Kepler Station and began changing shape again. It extended docking clamps and boarding tubes, configuring itself to mate directly with the station's emergency ports. Admiral Vextar, Captain Chen announced, you wanted to see how humans handle hostage situations. You are about to learn. The human boarding section docked with Kepler Station with an impact that shook the entire structure. Immediately, armored figures began pouring through the airlock. These were human Marines, and they moved with a precision and purpose that terrified the watching aliens. The Marines wore powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. Their weapons appeared to be energy rifles of some kind, but they also carried what looked like primitive projectile weapons and bladed tools. Most disturbing of all, they moved through the station corridors as if they had studied the layout for years. In the shopping district, a squad of Zephyrian soldiers heard the sound of approaching footsteps. They positioned themselves behind a barricade of overturned shops, using a group of Nethian families as human shields. Human soldiers, the Zephyrian sergeant called out. We have civilians. Approach and they die. The human response came in the form of small metallic spheres that rolled around corners and under barricades. The spheres emitted a high-frequency sound that disabled the Zephyrian weapons, while holographic projections confused their targeting systems. Before the alien soldiers could react, the human Marines were among them. What followed was not a battle but a demonstration of controlled violence. The Marines used non-lethal takedown methods that left the Zephyrians unconscious but alive. Their armor protected the civilians while their weapons neutralized threats with surgical precision. "How are they doing this?" Commander Thale asked as he watched the tactical display. "They're fighting in close quarters with civilians everywhere, but the casualty reports show 0 non-combatant injuries." "Human military doctrine," Lieutenant Crix explained, reading from historical files. "They call it precision warfare, the ability to use overwhelming force while minimizing collateral damage." But the Marines were not the only surprise the humans had brought. As the boarding action continued, other sections of the Indomitable were pursuing the fleeing Zephyrian ships. This was where human pursuit doctrine showed its true horror. Admiral Vextar had escaped in his flagship with 11 other ships, but the human pursuit craft were faster and more maneuverable than anything he had ever seen. They caught up with his fleet near the system's outer planets and began destroying ships one by one. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with terror in his voice, "they're not just destroying our ships, they're hunting us." The human ships moved like wolves among sheep. They disabled engines first, leaving their targets helpless, then systematically destroyed weapons, communications, and life support. They wanted the Zephyrian crews to have time to think about their situation before they died. "Admiral," came a transmission from one of his ships. "The humans are broadcasting something on all frequencies." "Put it through," Vexitar ordered. Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge of every remaining Zephyrian ship. "This message is being transmitted to every Zephyrian military installation in the galaxy. Today your empire learned what happens when innocent lives are threatened in human space. Your fleet came here with 60 ships to destroy civilians. Now you are running with 12 ships and you will not escape. We surrender," Vextar called out desperately. "We surrender." "Admiral," Chen replied, "you lost the right to surrender when you put weapons to civilian heads. Human military law is very clear about this. Those who threaten non-combatants forfeit all protections under the rules of war." The hunting continued. One by one, the Zephyrian ships were cornered and destroyed. The humans showed no mercy to those who had shown no mercy to others. Admiral Vextar watched his fleet die around him until only his flagship remained. On Kepler Station, the last Zephyrian soldiers were being rounded up by human Marines. The civilians were safe, the threats had been neutralized, and the station was secure. But the cost of this protection was becoming clear to everyone watching. "Sir," Communications Officer Yelt reported, "I'm picking up distress signals from throughout Zephyrian space. It appears human ships are attacking military installations across their entire empire." Commander Thale stared at the tactical display in shock. 300 ships, he whispered. Captain Chen said they had 300 ships like the Indomitable. The scope of human planning was becoming apparent. They had not just returned to protect one station or fight one battle. They had returned to reshape the entire galaxy according to their own ideas of justice. Admiral Vextar's flagship drifted alone in space, its engines destroyed and its weapons offline. Through his view screen, he could see the human pursuit ship approaching slowly, like a predator savoring the final moment of a hunt. "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice came through his speakers one last time. "You wanted to know what happens when humans return to the galaxy. Now you know." The final explosion lit up the darkness and Admiral Vextar's war was over. 3 days after the battle, representatives from 47 different species gathered aboard Kepler Station. They had come to witness something that many thought impossible. A human captain standing before the hastily assembled Galactic Council, explaining why their species had returned from exile. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the station's main conference hall, her dark blue uniform a stark contrast to the colorful robes and environmental suits worn by the alien delegates. Behind her, through the massive viewing windows, the wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet still drifted in space, a constant reminder of what human warfare could accomplish. "Honored delegates," Chen began, her voice carrying easily through the hall's translation systems. "You are wondering why humanity has chosen to reveal itself after 150 years of exile." Ambassador Trelvar of the Veclari raised one crystalline hand. "Captain Chen, the Treaty of Exile was signed by all major species. Your people agreed to leave galactic civilization permanently. Why have you broken that agreement?" Chen's blue eyes swept across the assembled delegates. "Ambassador, humanity never left the galaxy. We simply stepped back to observe and prepare. A murmur of surprise ran through the hall. Delegate after delegate checked their translation devices, certain they had misunderstood. "Prepare for what?" asked Representative Clicks of the Chirix Collective, his mandibles clicking nervously. "To protect those who cannot protect themselves," Chen replied simply. The Treaty of Exile was supposed to bring peace to the galaxy. Instead, it removed the only species willing to stand against tyranny wherever it appeared. Elder Morn of the Historian Farming Worlds leaned forward in his chair. "Captain, your species was exiled because of your aggressive nature. The galaxy feared human expansion and conquest." "Elder Morn," Chen said with what might have been a smile, "you have confused cause and effect. Humans are not aggressive by nature. We become aggressive when innocent lives are threatened." She gestured toward the viewing window and the destroyed ships beyond. "Admiral Vextar brought 60 warships to destroy a station full of civilians. Where were your fleets? Where was the Galactic Council's response to this threat?" The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Several delegates looked down at their hands while others shifted nervously in their seats. Ambassador Yelsun of the Nethian gas clouds spoke up, her voice carrying the ethereal quality of her people. "Captain, the Council was preparing a diplomatic response. We believe in peaceful solutions to conflict. And while you were preparing," Chen replied, 200,000 civilians would have died. That is the fundamental difference between human thinking and galactic thinking. You see war as a failure of diplomacy. We see the protection of innocent life as more important than diplomatic protocol. Representative Vorthak of the Rigelian Trading Guild stood up, his multiple arms gesturing emphatically. "But Captain, your methods are excessive. The complete destruction of a military fleet, the pursuit and elimination of fleeing ships, the attack on Zephyrian installations across their entire empire. This goes far beyond reasonable defense." Chen's expression hardened. "Representative Vorthak, your people have traded with Zephyrian slave worlds for decades. You have profited from their forced labor camps and execution factories. Did you consider that excessive?" Vorthak's skin flushed purple with embarrassment, and he sat down quickly. Around the hall, other delegates who had remained silent about Zephyrian atrocities now looked equally uncomfortable. "The truth," Chen continued, "is that galactic civilization has become comfortable with evil. As long as it happens far away, or to people you consider unimportant, you make treaties with tyrants, trade with slavers, and call it diplomacy." She walked to the center of the hall, her voice carrying to every corner. "Humanity spent our exile watching your peaceful galaxy. We watched the Zephyrian Empire conquer 17 worlds and enslave their populations. We watched the Carillion Syndicate disappear entire species for genetic experimentation. We watched the Dark Fleet raid refugee convoys while you debated the legality of intervention." Elder Morn spoke again, his deep voice filled with uncertainty. "Captain, what exactly do you want from us?" "Nothing," Chen replied, and the simplicity of her answer stunned the assembled delegates. "We want nothing from you. We are here to inform you that humanity has returned, and we will protect innocent life wherever we find it threatened." Ambassador Trelvar's crystalline features reflected the emergency lighting as she asked, "And if we refuse to accept your return?" "If we invoke the Treaty of Exile again?" Chen turned to face the Veclari ambassador directly. "Ambassador, you are welcome to try. But understand that the galaxy has changed. 300 human warships now patrol the trade routes and border systems. We have bases in 17 different star systems, all of them hidden from your sensors until today." The number sent a shock through the assembled delegates. 300 ships like the Indomitable could rewrite the balance of power in the galaxy. "Furthermore," Chen continued, "we have allies among the species you consider primitive or unimportant. The farming worlds of the Outer Rim, the mining colonies of the asteroid belts, the refugee populations you have ignored for decades. They remember who came to their aid when pirates and slavers threatened them." Representative Clicks clicked his mandibles anxiously. "Captain, are you threatening us?" "Not at all," Chen replied. "We are offering you a choice. You can accept humanity's return and work with us to build a galaxy where innocent life is protected, or you can try to maintain the status quo while we work around you." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "But understand this. We will not allow another Kepler station to happen. We will not allow tyrants to threaten civilians while the galaxy debates the proper diplomatic response. We will act, with or without your approval." Ambassador Yelsun's gaseous form swirled nervously. "Captain, what you are proposing sounds like..." like a police state, with humans as the police. Ambassador, Chen said, we are not interested in ruling anyone. Human ships will patrol trade routes and respond to threats against civilians. We will establish protection agreements with worlds that request them. We will hunt down pirates, slavers, and anyone else who preys on the innocent. She gestured toward Commander Thale, who had been watching from the observers section. Commander Thale and his people did everything right according to galactic law. They requested help from the Council, they filed diplomatic protests, they tried to negotiate, and they would have died along with 200,000 civilians if humanity had not intervened. Commander Thale stood up and addressed the assembled delegates. Captain Chen speaks the truth. My people are alive today because humans were willing to do what the rest of the galaxy would not, fight to protect strangers. A new voice spoke from the back of the hall. And what about those who oppose you? It was Ambassador Krex of the Mordian Empire, a species known for their military traditions. Chen looked at the heavily armored delegate. Ambassador, opposition implies conflict of interest. Who opposes the protection of innocent life? Who stands against the elimination of slavery and piracy? Who argues for the right of tyrants to commit genocide? Krex's mechanical voice modulators buzzed as he considered his response. Perhaps the Mordian Empire has been too focused on our own borders. Perhaps it is time to look beyond them. Around the hall, other delegates were having similar thoughts. The comfortable status quo had been shattered, and everyone was reconsidering their positions. I propose, said Eldermorn, that we draft a new treaty. Not of exile, but of cooperation. Let humanity patrol the trade routes and protect civilian populations. Let the rest of us handle diplomacy and governance. Chen nodded slowly. That would be acceptable, but understand that human protection comes with human justice. We will not negotiate with slavers or debate with genocidal tyrants. Some enemies can only be stopped by force. Ambassador Trelvar performed the crystalline equivalent of a sigh. Captain, your people have given us much to consider. But I think I speak for most delegates when I say that we prefer a galaxy protected by human warriors to one terrorized by Zephyrian fleets. Over the next several hours, the framework of a new galactic order was established. Humanity would provide military protection and law enforcement in exchange for the right to exist peacefully among the stars. Trade routes would be patrolled by human ships, and any threat to civilian populations would face immediate human response. As the meeting concluded, Captain Chen received a priority transmission from Earth Command. She stepped away from the delegates to take the call. Captain Chen, came the voice of Admiral Rodriguez, commander of the human fleet. Mission status report. Mission accomplished, Admiral. The Zephyrian Empire has been neutralized, and the galactic powers have accepted our return. Recommend we proceed to Phase 2 of the protection protocol. Acknowledged. Your ship is to resume patrol duties in Sector 7. Intelligence reports possible pirate activity near the Rimward colonies. Understood, sir. Captain Chen out. She turned back to the assembled delegates who were still arguing about the details of their new treaty. Honored delegates, the Indomitable is needed elsewhere. Other innocent lives require protection. As Captain Chen walked toward the exit, Commander Thale approached her. Captain, thank you. For everything. Chen paused and looked back at him. Commander, thank us by building the kind of galaxy worth protecting. Teach your children that freedom is not free, and that sometimes good people must fight to stop evil ones. We will, Thale promised. Chen nodded and continued toward the docking bay where her ship waited. Behind her, the delegates continued their discussions, but the important decisions had already been made. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians. As the Indomitable undocked from Kepler Station and disappeared into hyperspace, a new message began broadcasting on every communication frequency in the galaxy. Galactic alert. Human war vessels now patrol all major trade routes. Civilian populations are under human protection. Any threat to innocent life will face immediate response. You have been warned. In the depths of space, 300 human ships took up their positions ready to enforce a new kind of peace. The galaxy would never be the same.